How do you measure success? In points? In wins? Or trophies? At Shelter Insurance, we measure success in the quality of our products and services, in our community support, in being there when you need us most. We're your shield. We're your shelter.
For auto, home, life, or business insurance, come see me, Agent Janine Blankenship in Effingham.
So, tell me who your name is.
My name is Joshua Zink.
Where and what year did you go to high school?
I went to North Clay High School and I graduated in 1994.
Did you play any sports in high school?
I did. I played basketball and baseball. Would have loved to have tried to play football, but we didn't have football. We could have went to Florida to play football, but that would have eliminated me from playing fall baseball, and that just wasn't going to happen. So pretty much basketball and baseball.
Talk about your high school sports career from freshman to senior.
Well, I'll start off with baseball. I came in as a freshman and was able to start as a freshman and actually start all 4 years. My freshman year, we were pretty much a fresh soft team. We didn't have a whole lot of varsity players, so it was a nice opportunity for me to be able to play, and so I always appreciated that. My sophomore year was really a turning point for me in my high school baseball career. I was all conference my sophomore year. It was all conference my freshman year as well, but I was able to hit 581 as a sophomore, and at that point it started giving me an indication that maybe I would be able to play beyond high school. So that sophomore year was a turning point. My junior year, we won our conference, the Midland Trail Conference, and that was the first time they'd won it since like the 40s. And I was, junior and senior year was a little different just because I was playing with the guys that I played my whole life with. And so we were pretty good my junior season, led by a guy named Troy Birch, who was the player of the year in the conference. And he ended up going to Greenville University, and we had a real good year. Got beat by Red Hill in the regional final after upsetting Alney, and that was a heartbreaker because Alney was really good my junior year, and when we upset them, we thought, hey, we really got a chance to win the first regional North Clay would ever have in baseball, and weren't able to get it done in that regional championship game. And then my senior year was another turning point for us. Again, you kind of grow up playing with the guys your age, and we had a really good year my senior year. I ended up being the player of the year of the conference in the Midland Trail, and we had a nice postseason run. We won the first regional ever in North Clay baseball history. I beat Alney again, and then played in the sectional, beat Heron, and then got to the Sweet 16 and got beat by Carmi, who ended up, I think, getting in the Final Four of the state. So my senior year was a great year. The best thing about high school baseball, though, was playing with all my friends that I'd played baseball with my entire life. A lot of guys like Chris Fleener. Chris and I have been really good friends since we've been little, and he's a former coach at Effingham High School baseball, and now he's at Fairfield. And guys like Andy Haynes. Andy's hit it big. You know, he's done a lot of work. He's been dedicated to baseball his entire life, and he's the hitting coach for the Milwaukee Brewers at the big league level. And other guys on the team that did real well were Toby Pierce. He's the principal down at Flora now, and Josh Butcher, Nate Harper, Anthony Dawkins, Jason Lewis. A lot of good guys there that I really miss playing baseball in high school with. So the greatest thing about high school baseball was just playing with the guys, and then having the opportunity for myself to be able to move on to college.
Talk about your coaches in high school.
My coach for high school baseball was Monty Aldridge, and Monty had played with the Atlanta Braves in the minor league organization. So he came in when I was a freshman, excuse me, and he had a world of knowledge. He just knew a whole lot about baseball, obviously having great experience in it. And we all really respected Monty. He was a guy that we all wanted to be someday, you know, where we were all being able to hopefully make it to professional baseball or minor league baseball, and learned a lot from Monty, and really appreciate him to this day. He was later our superintendent here in Louisville, and now he's the head baseball coach at Southwest Illinois Swick over in Belleville. And I had the opportunity to coach his son a couple of years ago, Quincy, who was a heck of a baseball player.
Talk about some of the teams and players that you played against in high school.
From a baseball standpoint, played against a lot of good teams. Our rival, being down here in Louisville, was always Diedrich and South Central. And so played against a lot of good guys from there. Jacob Hartke was a good player from Diedrich, and South Central had Derek Stork, who was always a good player, a guy named Steve Lindsay, Sean Garrett, who ended up being a really great player in the minor leagues, made it to AAA. He was a freshman when I was a senior, and you could always tell Sean was going to be a good player. But we played against a lot of good guys, a lot of memorable guys. I've got my little list here. A couple of guys, probably some of the best players I played against were Mike Rogers from Alney. Mike ended up going to Ole Miss. Chris Pistorius from South Central, Brett Turner from South Central, Jeremy Smith, Jeff Sylvie from Odin. Jeff's still probably one of the best hitters I'd ever seen, even throughout college, and ended up playing at SIUE. So that's just kind of a handful of guys.
What were some of your favorite ball fields in high school?
So I always loved our field here in Louisville. It was home. It was the field I grew up on playing on. It's been there since the 30s. So like there's been generations of guys play there throughout the years. But probably my favorite field was Paul Smith Field up in Effingham. I always knew if we were going to Paul Smith, it was a big game. We were either going to play the Hearts or we were going to play the Bulldogs. And back then we competed well with those teams.
Talk about some of the stories in high school, and then also some of the awards you've received.
Sure. So from an award standpoint, I was lucky enough to be the Player of the Year of the conference my senior year. I had some All-State honors. I was All-Conference 4 years in a row there at the Midland Trail. I also was able to became All-South by the Illinois Baseball Coaches Association, and was also All-South by the Evansville Courier. And so those were great awards, and my teammates really helped me get those. And there's a lot of great memories of high school baseball, especially here in Louisville. Best memories though, and were really just playing with my guys that I grew up with. There's nothing like it.
So after high school, as you can see on your shirt, you went to EIU to play college ball.
Yes.
Who recruited you?
So I was recruited by a guy named Dan Callahan, and Coach Callahan had been at Eastern, had success at Eastern, was a great guy. I signed with Eastern in May. It took me a long time to decide where I wanted to go to school. Signed with Eastern in May, and then Coach Callahan left and went to Southern Illinois University. And I had the opportunity to go down there with him. Chose not to because I wanted to go to Eastern. And then the new coach was a guy named Coach Jim Schmitz. And Coach Schmitz was a great person. He's retired now, but he is all-time wins leader at Eastern from a coaching standpoint. And he really taught us a lot about baseball. I learned more about baseball in the 4 years of playing baseball at Eastern Illinois than I had my whole life. Mostly about execution and doing a lot of little things in order to get better. And then also, there was pressure on you every year because I started all 4 years. And so every year somebody was there to try to take your spot, and you had to prove every year that you were still going to be good enough to be able to play and start. And so learned a lot from Coach Schmitz, and learned a lot up at Eastern.
So talk about your college career in general, including your teammates and coaches.
Sure. I've got some notes here real quick, but well, I'd be honest with you, coming from Louisville, little town, wonderful place. When I signed with Eastern and got ready to go up there, I was pretty much terrified. Going straight from a little school to a D1 school, had no idea what to expect. The situation was, though, as always, my goal was to play Division I baseball, and so I had the opportunity. And again, going up the fall semester, I was terrified because I didn't know if I could compete with everybody from Chicago and from all these other schools and all these other large communities, and ended up not being the case at all. I was just fine, and I wish I wouldn't have put myself through all that stress back then, but you don't know until you're in the thick of it. And I ended up being a 4-year starter at Eastern and a 2-year captain, and had a really nice career. Played a lot with a lot of great guys who've done well after that. A guy named Sean Lyons, he's the head coach at SIUE right now. He was my roommate for some time. A guy named Matt Marzak, some of these guys are from Chicago. Mark Tomsey, David Mikes, Bobby Castelli. Played with a guy named Justin Stone, who was real close friends with still. He's now the director of hitting for the Chicago Cubs. Played with a guy named Caleb Englehart from Tuscola. Played with a guy named Jeremy Sanders over from Flat Rock, Oblong area, now lives in Lawrenceville. These were all names that you're just hearing now, but these were all great players. And it was a real privilege to play with these guys. These were really good guys that were hard-nosed and loved playing baseball.
Talk about some of the teams and players that you played against.
Sure. So, played against quite a few guys that are in the big leagues, and they're probably retired now, but got some guys down here real quick. We played against a guy named Eric Hinsky, who played for the Cubs and played for the Braves and played for the Red Sox, played a lot of different places. Andy Phillips played for the Yankees. Paul Phillips, his brother, played for the Royals. They played for the University of Alabama. Brian Shackelford played for the University of Oklahoma. He ended up playing for the Reds. Danny Wright played for the White Sox some years back. Brad Lidge, you probably heard of Brad Lidge, played for Notre Dame. And a guy named John Roush, who played for Morehead State. He was 6'8" and threw the ball about 95, a lot like Randy Johnson back in the day. But we were able to, pretty crazy story if you want me to get into it, but we were able to set a record, an NCAA Division I record against John Roush, who ended up playing in the big leagues. But we hit 5 home runs in a row. And at that time, it's still a record if you look it up in the NCAA record books, but it was pretty crazy. If you'd like for me to go through it, but I was the leadoff. I was the leadoff and the guy that hit the first one, and so it just hit a home run, and that was always great. But then the guy behind me, we'd always talked about. His name was Matt Marzak, and we'd always talked about going back to back, and so he hit one, and so him and I were celebrating in the dugout. And then another guy named Clint Benhoff from Ramsey, Illinois, comes up, and Clint at any point could hit a home run. He was probably the best hitter I'd ever played with. And so we just hit back to back, and here comes Clint, and he hits a bomb. And so 3 in a row, we're all like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. How cool is this, you know? And then a guy named Brian Hantosh from Chicago comes up, and same pitcher, big league pitcher, and same pitcher, and he hits one. And so that's 4 in a row, 4 home runs in a row. And we were all like, don't think I've ever seen that before. That's really cool. Like, it was an awesome atmosphere in the dugout. And finally, my guy, Mark Tomsey, comes up. So this is, we're just keep waiting for somebody to ground out or something. And then next thing you know, we used to call him the Whammer. And Whammer hits one. So it's 5 in a row. And so we knew at that point something crazy had just happened. And I always compare it to like a locker room celebration after a championship game where the champagne's being poured on everybody's head, they're jumping around. That's pretty much what the dugout was like. And then my guy, Justin Stone, who's the director of hitting for the Cubs in minor leagues, he was a great hitter. And so we're expecting him to hit one, and he grounds out the shortstop. So anyway, it was a great record. The record is still today. It's probably a little bit what I've known for over the years. And I sure appreciate it more now as an older adult than I did at the time, because it was an amazing thing. 5 homers in a row. Again, nobody's ever done it higher than that. Nobody's hit 6 in college baseball yet. There has been a couple other teams. I know South Carolina in 2006 tied the record. So
name some of your favorite ball diamonds that you played on.
Sure. Like in college?
Yes.
Sure. So played a lot of great places. That was a great thing about playing baseball, was that it really led me to places that I probably would have never went to if I didn't play. Couple fields right off the bat. I loved playing at Middle Tennessee State down just south of Nashville. Loved playing at the University of Louisville. Also played at the University of Alabama. Played against the Crimson Tide. Played. See, I got some of them written down. Always enjoyed playing at SIU. I thought that was a neat field. Always enjoyed playing at St. Louis University because you had the arch in the background. I always thought that was neat. But probably the top 2 fields, played at Oklahoma Sooners. That was a really cool field because it was right beside the football stadium, and the training room was in the football stadium. So you got to walk in this amazing football stadium to go get your ice wrapped or your arm wrapped or whatever. But my favorite two fields by far, the University of Arkansas, all AstroTurf. It was really the only time I got to play on AstroTurf. I felt like I was in the big leagues there. Nice stadium, seat about 8,000. And then the other one that would be tied for my favorite field would be Notre Dame. I always tell people, as a high school senior in the spring, I was playing here in Louisville on a dirt infield, and then about 8 months later, here I am starting as a freshman at Notre Dame, looking over to my right and seeing Touchdown Jesus and the huge football stadium. And it was a dream come true at that point, really. And we got to play at Notre Dame for another 2 or 3 years after that. So those are by far my favorite fields.
Ending your college career, describe some of your favorite memories and your awards that you received there.
Sure. Well, all my memories were great because they were with newfound friends. You go from your grade school guys, then you go into high school, and then, you hate to leave those guys, but then you go meet a new group and you get close to those guys as well. So by far my favorite memories were spending time with my close friends that were on the team. I don't really miss the dedication that it took. It's a ton of work. And so I don't really miss a whole lot of it. Don't really miss a whole lot of the practices. I miss the games. It's been 20 some years now. It's been a long time. And so I still, what I remember about my college career was the teammates. You kind of move after you're done, you kind of move on, but you always remember your teammates. From a record standpoint, I had a good career. I was a switch hitter, and so that allowed me to start all 4 years. Whether there was a lefty or a righty on the mound, I was playing because I could hit both ways. And when I graduated, I was ranked first all time in Eastern's history in runs scored. I was ranked third all time in hits. At that point, Eastern had only 2 other guys that got over 200 hits, and so I got 201, so I just barely eclipsed that 200 hit mark, which I was proud of. I was ranked third all time in RBIs, ranked fourth all time in doubles, and I was ranked fifth all time in home runs. And so those were accomplishments that I cherish now more than I did back then because of my age. And I look back and think, wow, I really did have a good career. I was all conference, all mid-continent conference my sophomore season. And then I was all Ohio Valley Conference my senior year.
So after college, got 3 or 4 more questions for you. What did you do?
Sure. So right after college, I got hired at North Clay to be the technology coordinator. I was going into computers, and that position had just been created at North Clay, and so they hired me to take care of all the computers for the school district, which I enjoyed. I was also the junior high baseball and the basketball coach my first year. And at that point, Coach Ron Reed was our high school basketball coach, and he ended up leaving my second year and going to Lawrenceville for a couple of years. And so then I stepped in and became the head baseball and the head basketball coach at the age of 22 or 23. So that was a little different because I was coaching guys that were 18 years old, and I was only like 4 or 5 years older than them. I soon found out that I wanted to do different things than be a coach at that point in my life. And so I ended up leaving and moving to Chicago, ended up getting my master's degree in business up into the Chicagoland area. Worked up there in the corporate world for about 3 or 4 years, and then moved to Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Got a real good job down there in the corporate world again. Worked down there for about 2 years, and then figured it was time to head back to Louisville. I always wanted to come back home and work with my dad. He owns businesses here, and that's what's happened over the last 10 to 15 years. I came back here, and it's been great.
When did you decide on coaching?
Well, I guess I decided early on that I wanted to coach and give it a shot, and I realized that I wasn't a very good coach in my early 20s, and so didn't have much success, wasn't that dedicated to it, had bigger and brighter things that I wanted to do. And so then after about 20-year layoff, I told myself, if that basketball job ever comes open again, I want to do it because I really miss competition. Sports is just a tremendous thing. It's like Jim McKay used to say, it's the thrill of victory and the agony of defeat. And once that's in your blood, it never leaves. And sports has gotten me to a lot of places I would have never have been before. But I think, so I wanted to get back involved in that. And the best thing about now at my age, I'm in my 40s, coaching again, is that I relate better with kids because of some of the life lessons I've been through since then. And I'm a lot more serious about coaching. It's a big deal to me, and one of the greatest things about coaching is you get to have an impact on kids in your community, and we've been able to do that. And we've had some success here coaching basketball. A lot of people ask, why don't you got a great baseball career, but why don't you coach baseball? We have a great baseball coach at Louisville and at North Clay, and so I think it's also interesting that I got enough baseball. I played baseball my whole life and worked so hard to get to the point, and when it was over, it was really over for me. And so now my first 22, 21 years was all baseball, and then the last 20 some years have been all basketball, and I really enjoy coaching basketball.
So you've been coaching now for how long?
I've been coaching back at North Clay for 3 years. Yes. Yep.
Wow, that's a long time. Name some of the players that you have coached.
Well, early on, I coached a lot of guys like Ryan Wolf. That's when I was in my early 20s. Eric Harmon, Matt Thompson, a lot of those guys. Those were good guys. Now, in my second stint of coaching, coached a guy named Quincy Aldridge, which was Monty Aldridge's kid, Kyle McNelly, Reese Blank, Bryce Holkenbrink. Then we kind of graduated a level on not this past season, but the season before that. Alan Reinhardt, a guy named Nick Miller, Caden Turner, Trey Smith, just a lot of good guys. And then this past year, I really enjoyed coaching Luke Fleener and Tyson Jones and Lane Holkenbrink and Ian Bailey. And we've got a lot of good kids here at Louisville. And so it's been a real pleasure getting to know the kids, the parents, and being able to coach them.
I've enjoyed hearing your stories about coaching-wise. Now, list some of your assistant coaches and ADs.
Sure. So my assistant coach is the same coach that's been with me the last 3 years. His name is Roy Taylor, and he coaches our JV and our fresh soft, and he's also the AD, so it's an easy one to answer. Roy and I played basketball together in high school under Coach Ron Reed, and just want to take a little moment to honor Coach Reed. He was the best. He was just a tremendous high school basketball coach. You didn't know what the definition of working hard was until you played for Coach Reed. He demanded the best out of each player. And my senior year, to get off on a little tangent, I'm sorry, but we were pretty good basketball wise. We were 25-2. That was our record. We played T-Town in the regional final, and we were 25-1 going into the game. T-Town was ranked number 1 in the state. They were 26-0. So the two teams combined were in the 51 or something, like 51-1. And Coach Reed really had us ready to play. None of us thought we would lose that game. You win 25 games in a year, you don't expect to lose. And got beat by T-Town by 6, and it still hurts today. So I guess you started on the question about my assistant coach, Roy Taylor. Roy was on my team as a junior, and we were close to, we've gotten the regional championship a couple of years in a row there. That regional was always very difficult to win. You had T-Town, St. Anthony, Newton, Altamont, Stu Strauss, North Clay, Flora at times. So if you were ever able to get out of the regional, it was an impressive deal. And Coach Reed had us really on the cusp of winning that thing, and I think we would have went a long ways. But anyway, back to your question. My guy is Roy Taylor, great guy, helps me so much. He could be coaching, he could be a head coach somewhere as well. He's just choosing to stay here and help us out. In
conclusion, Josh, real quick, explain what would you like to end with?
Well, I think sports in general is just an amazing thing. Competition in anything you do, life, business, sports, is a good thing because it makes you elevate your performance to a completely different level by being pushed constantly. I was really lucky to be able to play baseball in college. A lot of people I owe and thank for that, and I think the fact that I'm back into sports just tells you how much I love it and how much I appreciate. Now I have a different perspective now in my 40s than I did in my 20s, and it's more of an appreciation. But there's nothing like coaching high school basketball. I think you're surrounded by fans that are sometimes very positive and other times are very negative on you, and that the negative is just fine as well. It kind of energizes you a little bit. And there are a ton of great high school basketball coaches around here, and I've gotten to know a lot of them, and I appreciate them all. But it is great to be back in sports for me. One thing I do want to say about what you're doing, I think this is tremendous. You kind of covering people that may have been lost in the shuffle over the years, and I really appreciate you reaching out and asking me to be a part of it as well, and I could share my story a little bit. And I hope you do a lot more of them, because you're kind of making an impact on some people, so it's good.
This is Josh Zink. He is the head men's basketball coach at North Clay High School. Josh, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Tyler.